There comes a moment in every life when the noise inside you becomes louder than the world around you. In that moment, time does not follow the clock, it follows your awareness. When time slows, even for a breath, the fog begins to lift and what once felt complicated suddenly becomes simple. Clarity is never the gift of speed, clarity is the gift of stillness. When time begins to slow, life strips away its unnecessary noise and brings you face to face with what truly deserves your attention. The rush of daily existence creates an illusion that everything is urgent, everything is critical and everything needs you right now. But the moment your inner pace softens, you start noticing that very few things actually matter. The rest were only distractions that consumed your energy without giving anything meaningful in return. As the mind quiets, awareness expands. You don't gain clarity by thinking faster or pushing harder, you gain it by seeing without the blur of constant motion. In stillness, situations that once felt tangled begin to unfold naturally. Problems that seemed overwhelming lose their weight when observed from a calmer space. The confusion you carried for years often turns out to be nothing more than a product of your own inner restlessness. In that silence, life becomes a powerful teacher. A quiet moment can deliver insight that a rushing mind spends years searching for. The ordinary becomes extraordinary because presence transforms simple experiences into sources of wisdom. When your attention becomes sharp and steady, even the smallest details reveal lessons that were always there but never noticed. Slowing down also awakens your inner intelligence. Instead of reacting out of impulse, you begin to respond with depth and clarity. You see the difference between what drains you and what strengthens you. Your real priorities stand out while the things you once chased lose their glow. This shift doesn't come from effort, it comes from allowing time to breathe inside you. And when your inner world slows, your perception transforms. Sounds become clearer, emotions become understandable, and your purpose becomes visible. Life stops feeling like a race you must win and becomes a path you consciously walk. Time doesn't slow outside you, it slows within you, and in that inner slowing, you finally gain the vision to see your life as it truly is. When awareness begins to rise, it does not grow out of pressure or force, it grows out of quiet. A mind that keeps running in every direction cannot see anything with depth. But when stillness settles inside you, your perception sharpens and the fog of constant motion begins to fade. The world remains the same, yet you start witnessing it with a different intensity because awareness blooms only in the space where noise dissolves. Stillness is not the absence of activity, it is the presence of clarity. When your inner turbulence calms, you stop drowning in your own thoughts and start observing them with a steady gaze. In that calm observation, you begin to separate truth from mental clutter. What once felt complicated becomes simple because a quiet mind does not twist realities, it reflects them as they are. Awareness deepens the moment you stop chasing thoughts and start watching them. As the mind settles, your ability to understand life becomes more refined. You begin to notice subtle details that once went unseen. People's intentions become clearer, your own emotions become understandable, and situations stop feeling overwhelming. This shift doesn't require new knowledge, it requires a new state of being. The more still you become, the more the world reveals itself without distortion. In that expanded awareness, your decisions become stronger and your actions become more deliberate. You no longer react blindly to every trigger, you respond with presence and precision. The weight of confusion drops because stillness shows you the essence behind every event. You begin to see beyond surfaces, beyond impulses, beyond the noise that once controlled you. Awareness expands in stillness because stillness cleans the lens through which you see life. When the inner rush softens, your vision deepens. When thoughts lose their aggression, your understanding strengthens. And when you stop running within yourself, you finally gain the space to see with honesty, sharpness, and unshakable clarity. Most confusion is born not from the world, but from the turbulence we carry within ourselves. When the mind is restless, even simple situations appear heavy and complicated. Thoughts begin to multiply, assumptions grow stronger, and fears start adding layers that were never there in reality. The chaos inside makes everything outside look distorted. And because of that inner noise, clarity becomes almost impossible to hold. But the moment you pause, something subtle shifts. The frantic movement of thoughts slows down, and in that slowing, reality begins to stand out on its own. You start noticing how many of your worries were nothing more than exaggerated versions created by your own imagination. The issues you called problems were often just scattered thoughts tied together by anxiety and haste, not by truth. A restless mind amplifies even the smallest discomforts, turning them into emotional storms. When you give yourself a moment of stillness, those storms begin to lose their force. The intensity you felt earlier was never the situation itself, it was your unexamined reaction to it. As your inner movement settles, the chaos you once felt begins to shrink, revealing that most of it was never real to begin with. In that stillness, a deeper understanding rises. You realize that clarity does not come from adding more thoughts, it comes from letting go of the unnecessary ones. Confusion thrives on speed, but insight grows in calmness. When you stop feeding your thoughts with fear and urgency, they stop overpowering you. The mind becomes a clearer space, capable of seeing without distortion. And the more you practice pausing, the more you see how often you were the one turning small ripples into tidal waves. Life becomes simpler not because the world changes, but because your inner lens becomes cleaner. When restlessness fades, confusion collapses. What remains is a grounded sense of awareness that allows you to face life without creating unnecessary chaos from within. Inner silence does not arrive through effort. It arrives when the mind finally becomes tired of its own noise. A mind that keeps arguing, comparing, worrying, and calculating loses the ability to perceive anything clearly. But when that noise weakens even slightly, a different quality of awareness begins to rise from within. This awareness is not born from thought, but from stillness, and it carries a strength that thought can never match. In silence, life reveals truths that remain hidden in the chaos of constant mental activity. Answers you spent years searching for suddenly begin to surface without struggle. This happens because silence removes the layers of confusion that thinking often creates when you stop interfering with reality through restless thoughts. Reality starts speaking to you in its own quiet language. There is no effort in this understanding, it unfolds naturally. A single moment of silence can expose the roots of your fears, your patterns, and your desires. It shows you how much of your suffering was built not by circumstances, but by the noise you kept feeding inside your head. Silence becomes a mirror that reflects your inner world without distortion. In that reflection, you begin to see what strengthens you, what weakens you, and what needs to be released. As silence deepens, your perception gains a sharpness that no external teaching can provide. You start sensing things with greater clarity, people's intentions, the direction of your own life, the emotions buried within you. Silence sharpens intuition, and intuition guides you with a precision that logic alone cannot achieve. This is why a quiet mind often makes stronger decisions than a loud one. Inner silence becomes a teacher because it aligns you with your own truth. It does not give you borrowed wisdom, It reveals what was always inside you but covered by mental noise. The deeper the silence, the clearer your vision becomes. And in that clarity, you stop seeking answers outside because the most powerful guidance rises from the quiet strength of your own inner stillness. Inner silence does not arrive through effort, it arrives when the mind finally becomes tired of its own noise. A mind that keeps arguing, comparing, worrying and calculating loses the ability to perceive anything clearly. But when that noise weakens, even slightly, a different quality of awareness begins to rise from within. This awareness is not born from thought, but from stillness, and it carries a strength that thought can never match. In silence, life reveals truths that remain hidden in the chaos of constant mental activity. Answers you spent years searching for suddenly begin to surface without struggle. This happens because silence removes the layers of confusion that thinking often creates. When you stop interfering with reality through restless thoughts, reality starts speaking to you in its own quiet language. There is no effort in this understanding, it unfolds naturally. A single moment of silence can expose the roots of your fears, your patterns and your desires. It shows you how much of your suffering was built not by circumstances but by the noise you kept feeding inside your head. Silence becomes a mirror that reflects your inner world without distortion. In that reflection, you begin to see what strengthens you, what weakens you, and what needs to be released. As silence deepens, your perception gains a sharpness that no external teaching can provide. You start sensing things with greater clarity, people's intentions, the direction of your own life, the emotions buried within you. Silence sharpens intuition, and intuition guides you with a precision that logic alone cannot achieve. This is why a quiet mind often makes stronger decisions than a loud one. Inner silence becomes a teacher because it aligns you with your own truth. It does not give you borrowed wisdom. It reveals what was always inside you but covered by mental noise. The deeper the silence, the clearer your vision becomes. And in that clarity, you stop seeking answers outside because the most powerful guidance rises from the quiet strength of your own inner stillness. When you learn to observe instead of reacting, a different dimension of clarity rises within you. Reaction is impulsive, it is driven by old patterns, unexamined emotions and hurried assumptions. When you react instantly, you are not responding to the present moment, you are responding to your past. Observation breaks this cycle by creating a space between what happens and what you choose to do, and in that space, intelligence begins to function. Observation allows you to see the situation without the fog of emotional turbulence. Instead of being pulled by anger, fear or insecurity, you begin to witness these emotions as they arise. This witnessing weakens their control over you. When emotions lose their grip, you can see people's intentions, the tone of events and the direction of a moment with far greater accuracy. Clarity is never born from emotional chaos, it is born from steady awareness. As you observe more, you start recognizing how many reactions were unnecessary. You notice how often you gave energy to small triggers, how many times you turned minor issues into major conflicts, and how frequently you allowed your mind to create stories that had little to do with reality. With observation, these patterns become visible, and once visible, they begin to lose their strength. In the state of observation, your mind becomes sharper and your decisions become cleaner. You stop rushing to conclusions because you no longer feel the pressure to defend your emotions. Instead, you respond with calm precision. This shift creates more meaningful interactions, stronger relationships and a deeper sense of stability within yourself. Reacting comes from habit, responding comes from clarity. The more you practice observing, the more your inner world transforms. Situations that once triggered you start feeling lighter. Conflicts that once consumed you lose their power. You begin to experience a form of inner freedom that comes from choosing your responses rather than being dragged by impulses. Clarity grows stronger each time you witness instead of react, and through this strength, you begin to move through life with a depth that emotional reactions can never offer. Slowness allows you to see with unfiltered clarity where your energy is being spent. In the rush of life, it is easy to confuse urgency with importance, to pour yourself into things that demand attention but carry little meaning. When time slows, you start noticing how much effort goes into trivial pursuits, how many distractions you have allowed to dominate your focus, and how often you have prioritized other people's expectations over your own purpose. This awareness forces a reckoning with where your true priorities lie. As the mind quiets, you begin to distinguish between what is necessary and what is habitual. Many actions that once felt essential are revealed to be routines or compulsions that serve no real purpose. Slowness creates a space in which these patterns become visible. When you observe your life from this calmer vantage, it becomes easier to redirect your attention toward the things that truly matter, the things that create long-term fulfillment instead of fleeting satisfaction. The process of recognizing priorities also uncovers the areas where energy has been wasted in conflict, comparison, or meaningless obligations. You see how much time has been spent worrying about outcomes you could not control, how much effort has been invested in validation from others, and how often your attention has been fragmented by unnecessary business. Slowness strips away these illusions and shows you where your efforts are genuinely fruitful. With this clarity, decisions become more deliberate and actions become more aligned with your true intentions. You no longer scatter your energy across countless demands. Instead, you focus on what nourishes your growth, strengthens your relationships, and contributes meaningfully to your life. Every choice becomes an act of conscious prioritization, rooted in awareness rather than habit or pressure. Recognizing your true priorities also reveals a deeper understanding of purpose. You begin to see that life is not about doing everything at once, but about doing the right things with full presence and commitment. Slowness teaches that fulfillment is measured not by the quantity of actions, but by the depth and intentionality behind them. As you align your energy with what truly matters, you create a life of greater clarity, strength and meaning. When time slows, your perception becomes alive in ways that constant rushing never allows. The senses that were dulled by speed begin to sharpen, revealing layers of reality that were always present but unnoticed. Every sound carries meaning, every movement communicates intention, and every subtle shift in energy becomes perceptible. What was once invisible begins to assert itself, and your awareness becomes a tool far more precise than any hurried observation could offer. As your perception deepens, you start to notice the intentions behind actions, not just the actions themselves. People's gestures, words, and behaviors are no longer a blur, they carry messages that your mind can read with clarity. You begin to understand motivations, emotions, and unspoken truths that had previously slipped past your notice. This heightened sense of perception allows you to navigate relationships and situations with far greater intelligence and accuracy. The inner state, too, becomes more evident. You start recognizing the subtle currents of your own mind and emotions, noticing where tension lingers and where clarity resides. You become aware of the points in yourself that react impulsively and the areas that remain grounded. This awareness strengthens your ability to respond consciously rather than automatically, giving you command over your own inner landscape. Slowing time also magnifies details in the environment around you. The texture of a surface, the rhythm of a movement, or the faintest variations in sound become perceptible in a way that was previously impossible. Each sensory input carries information that your mind can process deeply, allowing you to act with insight instead of haste. Your senses no longer serve as passive receivers, they become instruments of understanding, attuned to subtleties that were hidden before. As perception strengthens, clarity becomes a natural byproduct. You no longer need to strain to understand people, situations, or even yourself. The mind that observes without rush sees connections, patterns, and truths effortlessly. This heightened awareness is not simply about noticing more. It is about perceiving with precision, allowing you to move through life with a depth, intelligence, and sensitivity that speed cannot provide. When your inner world slows, the noise that once controlled your thoughts begins to settle. Every emotion that felt urgent loses its grip, and the constant mental chatter that pushed you into reaction softens. You begin to experience a sense of calm that does not rely on circumstances, because peace is no longer something you seek outside, it emerges naturally from within. The turbulence that once dictated your perception becomes quiet, and in that quiet, clarity takes root. As stillness deepens inside, your experience of the outer world transforms. Situations that previously triggered frustration or anxiety now pass with less disturbance because your mind no longer mirrors every external ripple. You notice that chaos in the world does not automatically create chaos within you, it only did so when your inner pace matched the speed of events. With a slowed inner rhythm, even the busiest or most turbulent surroundings can feel more manageable and coherent. The slowing of the inner world sharpens your awareness of subtle details. You start to perceive patterns, intentions, and truths that were previously lost in the rush of mental activity. Small gestures, minor shifts in tone, and hidden layers of meaning become visible. This heightened perception allows you to respond rather than react, and your actions gain precision because they are guided by observation rather than impulse. Inner stillness also strengthens resilience. When your world is not dictated by external speed or pressure, challenges lose their ability to overwhelm you. Difficult moments are met with composure and measured judgment because your mind maintains a consistent rhythm, independent of the external environment. You no longer expend energy fighting against the world, instead you move with it intelligently, conserving strength for what truly matters. The more you cultivate inner stillness, the more you realize that outer peace is a reflection of your internal state. Calmness is not something you impose on circumstances, it is something that radiates from the depth of your awareness. When your inner world slows, clarity, patience, and balance emerge naturally, and the outer world begins to align with the tranquility that originates within you. Clarity is not something you chase, it is something you uncover when the rush within you dissolves. The world may keep spinning at its usual speed, but when your inner time slows, life begins to reveal its deeper patterns, its hidden lessons, and its quiet beauty. A clear mind does not need more time, it needs more presence. And presence begins the moment you decide to stop rushing through your own life.